Restream. All right. Make sure I'm on here. What are we doing today? I got nothing. I am going to have to leave earlier. So, All right. Oh, shoot. I need a Wacom tablet. Hold on. There we go. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Didn't have my Wacom, or Wacom, as they say at the Wacom booth. I always called it Wacom. Hey everybody. I don't have an agenda today. I'm just going to be doing nothing. Well, I mean, I'll do something. I don't want to be bored. But if you guys have anything you want me to cover, shout it out, and we'll see what we can do. First, got to fix my Wacom. So we're going to do a portion, screen area. I think that's about right. Hey, Sebastian, thanks for showing up. Gosh, I don't even know. Let me look. What have we worked on in the past? Actually, let me get some links up here. Oh, and also let me know if the audio is okay. I put a gain filter on it, so hopefully I'm a little louder than the last couple. Apparently, my YouTube videos have been a little bit soft, so why so sexy today? Oh, that's you know, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, I put on my Mordecai and the Rigby shirt, and then I'm really feeling it. Able to solve the screen grab issue on live Boolean mode? Nope. That would be and I would imagine it's having to do something with the render of the live Boolean, because the live Boolean is really kind of a render thing. So I wonder, something weird with the pixels there. Let me see if I can fix this chroma key real quick. Yeah, a little bit better. Cool. John says, hey, I had a cool question. Is there any program you don't know that you want to learn? Oh man, a lot. Or at least even programs that I have learned in the past that I haven't used in a while. I was going through some Fusion 360 stuff yesterday with my students, and I was like, man, I need to get back into that. You guys want to do some Fusion 360 stuff today? It would be embarrassing. I'm not really good at it anymore, but we could give it a shot. Let me grab my links here. Let's see, streaming, PavWork workshop. Okay, like I always do. If you want to look at the video on demand stuff, just go to my YouTube channel here and go to my Pixelogic stream channel here. I think I have to leave a little bit early today. I'm going to check my calendar as we go. But Unreal Engine. Okay, let's see what's going on in Unreal Engine. Let me see. I haven't opened that on this computer, I don't think yet. I'll launch it. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we can take something into Unreal. Let's see. Boy. Let me log in. There it is. Hey, there we go. Do I need to update? Yeah, 4.1.7, I think. Oh, man. No, let's launch it. Let's see what happens. But Fusion 360 can generate good high poly for baking. In my experience, there's been some instances where whenever you have really sharp polygons, in fact, let's talk about that. So let me open this up. Let's go to Load Tool. And I think if we go to the pistol, the original gun bake here, sure. Okay, I'm going to hit the comma key to hide this. I'm going to drag out this gun here. This is the gun. Okay, so if you missed this, oh, you know what? I still need to edit this stuff, don't I, guys? I apologize. Go to my videos, or yeah, we can go to playlists, and we can go to live stream full episodes here. And live stream full episodes, last time we just did Giant Anteater, but PavWork 23, 24, 25, and 26, it looks like, were all part of this weapon thing. So what we did was, in the live stream, we went through and did a ZBrush poly reduction or a decimation, and then we baked it in Painter, and then we just did some quick renders in Array, and we just did a little Painter stuff. Also, what we did, and this probably won't be something you could just jump and grab, but I did an Instalod one of very similar, where we just take this and we go through and we use Instalod to do game res UVs. This wasn't so much to be like, hey, everybody use Instalod. It was more just to get you in the mindset of automatic game res, automatic UVs, and this goes way back to so I did a GDC presentation in 2015 unfortunately called Remaking the Art of Halo 2 for Xbox One, but most of it is about automated pipelines. And this is stuff we were doing back in 2013, 2014, and 2015. Obviously, very much the same thing. We were using Houdini, and we still are using Houdini, and I'm going to be using Houdini in the upcoming weeks here to kind of do some really cool stuff, I think, as far as automated pipeline stuff. And that's the stuff I find exciting. Yeah, it's not so much about the individual tools, it's just getting in that mindset of rapid iteration and spending your time where it's important. But anyway, I digress. So if we go in here, and I think it was this piece right here. Yeah, so this is possibly, so when you do a live Boolean, let me just isolate this piece here. Let me lighten this up here so you can see it. I guess we can go to flat color. Okay, so whenever you do a live Boolean, it'll give you these kind of triangles on the side, and it's basically just taking one mesh and another mesh, keeping those polygroups, keeping that geometry, and then just resolving those differences along the edge, and you'll get triangles like this. When you come out of Fusion sometimes, if you don't have a fillet or something to round that edge off, you can sometimes run into geometry that's not dissimilar to this, and these can cause baking errors in almost every baker that I've ever used. So this is really tough geometry to bake off. In this case, what I would probably end up doing, and it's not pretty, but it is what it is, I suppose. Let me go to solo mode here. So if I isolate this piece here, we go ahead and like split hidden. What I'd usually end up doing is going through here and just dynameshing this piece like so, and then possibly even going down here to my deformation menu. I mean, this should bake fine, but it still is extra razor, extra crispy. That's something that Fusion is really good at, is once you do a Boolean operation, you can come back through and resolve this edge, this open edge, as a chamfer or a fillet, or manipulate it to soften it out. But in ZBrush, it's a little bit tougher. If you go back to here, the ZBrush 4R8 What's New playlist on my Facebook, on my YouTube. Ugh, too much social media. I'm done with it. And you go to the, I don't even remember what it's called. It's like resolving edges or something. Is it 18? I forget. Yeah, modifying sharp Boolean intersections. I go through a couple examples of maybe possible ways where you can resolve that. I'm usually lazy, and I would just go through here, and I would say, I'm going to hit Control W, make this all in polygroup, and I like to use this polish by features with no actual features, and that's just a nice little polish I can run on here. just to kind of knock those corners back just a little bit. Or you can manually just go through here and smooth, I suppose. Again, not a pretty solution, but one that'll get you a cleaner bake. And this is really just a bad piece of geometry. I'm kind of embarrassed showing it to you. Don't model like this. That was just a placeholder. I don't know what I was doing. But anyway, you know how it goes. So Craig Kelly says, Fusion 360, that's for printing. You can do tons of stuff. I used to use Fusion 360 a lot. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, sorry I keep bringing this up, but it's all relevant. You can go down here to the Fusion 360 Quick Start. And Fusion 360 has a lot of really cool tools for making stuff. And then you can export it into ZBrush as little kit bash pieces. You can actually do rendering in Fusion that's pretty decent. You can go to GrabCAD and grab, engine blocks and cars and weapons. You can also go from ZBrush to Fusion 360 if you want to. You know what? Let's do that today. If everybody's cool with that, we can do a little bit of that today. It'll be fun. Can you talk about some lighting in ZBrush? Yeah, let's do some. We can do some rendering as well. Let me make a list here. Okay, lighting in ZBrush. And then let's do Fusion ZBrush workflow. I think that'll be a fun one. Actually, before I commit to that, let me make sure. Oh no. Really? Really? I don't have Fusion. Oh boy. All right, I'm done. I don't have Fusion 360 on this machine. So I'm actually going to go to my products here. Sorry about that, guys. And we were also going to do a little bit of Unreal. But while we're working here, I'm just going to go ahead and download. Of course. So I go to download it. Okay, there we go. Let's run that. We'll just have that run. Okay. Thank you. I'm stupid. I swear, I always think like, yeah, the computer's all set up. I'm ready to go. And then, nope. I'm on the right side of the screen because I don't remember why. I moved over here for a reason. I suppose I can move myself back over here. Oh, that's why, because I had to move my webcam over here, and now when I work, I'm just kind of looking off this side of the screen. So I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know. Let's stick myself down in the corner there. I hate being over here in the tool menu because that's where a bunch of the action happens, but I can, whoops. Let's try that again. Let's put myself like right here. Thanks for making the Stingray PBS demo. Very helpful. Cool. Stingray PBS. I'm not sure what that was. Sounds cool though. Writing a book. It's too much work. I wouldn't mind writing a book, but really all the work goes into making pictures and captions and figures and writing, which I'm a fast writer. I can type so fast, but the problem with that is, okay, fine, whatever, stop. Jeez. Goodness gracious. The problem with that is it's so much work, and then this technology, oh my good Lord, driving me up the wall. Autodesk. Shouldn't say that, but I did. But it's a lot of work for a technology that changes every 4 years. You write a book, it's going to be a completely dated book in no time. So I just tend to do video because it's faster. Here we go. I like how Autodesk has like 3 different logins. It's like, oh, you have a username, but go ahead and give us your password this time. Or go ahead and give us your email. Okay, what exactly did you do? Okay, we did it. Give me a second. Jeez. It's also being really weird and giving me some weird... How am I not connected to the internet? I'm streaming, right, guys? So I am connected to the internet. Jeez. Alright, well, Fusion's going to be a bust till I figure out why it thinks I'm not connected to the internet. Go over the process of exporting your ZBrush polypainted model to KeyShot 7, render the polypainted model with KeyShot shaders. Yeah, we'll talk about lighting in here, and then we'll take that. You know what? Let's do that real quick, because I don't think that'll take too long here. So if you've been watching my, let's grab this bullet box. That'll be a fun one. Maybe, although these are just going to be kind of color fills. Let me do another one here. Flower, ghost, question box, star thing. Let's do the flower. So let me go here. I'm going to load up Quadro just for reference. So let's see, more, run as administrator. Yes, please. So if you haven't used Quadro Reference Viewer, I'd give that a shot. It's real. Oh, Fusion's working. Hey, everybody, check that out. Neat. Okay, so Quadro is Quadro. It's a reference viewer, and I can use that to open up my previous reference here, which will be, you can kind of see at the top of the screen there. And, oh, I should have modeled this guy. He looks like fun. Anyway, we got some of this stuff here, so we can go through and we can, like, maybe paint our render. So I was trying to look for one that we could do a little bit of fun poly painting with, but I guess I didn't really make one that has any sort of gradients. But we can just do it. We can just have fun. So let's talk about lighting in ZBrush and materials in ZBrush. If I go to Alt-R, which is my live Boolean render shortcut, you can see if I turn that off, it looks like, oh, I got all these little pegs on here. I go here, you're going to see, oh, I'm doing a subtractive mesh on all these pieces here. So now that I've got that, I can go up here and I can hit this BPR. Let me move this down. It's bugging me. There we go. I can hit this BPR button. That's the best preview render. And once you do that, you can go over here to the render palette. Let's drag it over here. And we're going to go to external renders, where we're going to go into KeyShot. That's going to be later. We can go over here to render properties, and we can say, oh, we have shadows turned on. There's a lot of things we can turn on. We can turn on ambient occlusion. We can turn on subsurface scattering and wax preview. These are all things you're going to want to like bake out. On this particular one, we probably won't need subsurface scattering or wax preview, but that's available to you. You can go to render passes here, and when we hit BPR, it stores all of these render pass images into these things right here, and you can just click on them and you can export this as a PSD. So we don't have ambient occlusion because we didn't have that turned on, but now if I hit BPR again, it'll go ahead and update this render. Now the cool thing about this is if you don't change anything, but let's like change this to like a Chrome B and we hit BPR, it'll render really quickly because it's just storing all of this pre-rendered information. And if you didn't change anything that really affects the final render, which in this case a real-time material doesn't, it just renders really quickly. However, if I was to go in here to the lighting menu, let's say, and I say, hey, let's move this light, and in fact, let's change this material over to like a basic material. And we'll talk a little bit about, so materials, lighting, and textures, just like in anything in CG, they all kind of work in tandem. You can work on one separately in like a scientific environment, but realistically, you're going to have textures that are going to work in conjunction with materials, that are going to all work in conjunction with lighting. So you really have to work on all three to get a good idea of what they all do. We'll go over here to modifiers, and let's go ahead and take the specular and crank that up. We'll make them a little shinier. And we'll open the specular curve here and we'll tighten this up. We'll make it a little bit shinier plus a little wetter looking. Now you can also go down here if you want to, and you could do this fawn blend. So right now I think it's fawn. We can also change this to blend. Give more of a blend type fall off here. Cool. So now that we've made those changes, it's just material changes. So again, it renders super fast. However, like I was saying, if I go over here to the lighting menu and I say, hey, take that light and put it over here. No, wait, I want this light here, or we want it down lit because it's going to be scary. We can go top lit, high noon. Let's say something like this is fine. Now when I hit BPR, it's going to re-render everything because I've changed the lighting, which is going to change the shadows, which is going to do a lot of different things. So now if we go down here to our exports, we've got a shaded depth pass, which is really cool. That'll give you the ability to do like camera focus. And then we got our shadow pass, we got our AO pass, and we got our mask. And that's just like to mask this entire object out if you wanted to put your own background in there or something. One thing I noticed on this thing is, okay, so if I hit Alt-R, we're still in preview render mode, which is cool. And on this one, you're going to see this box right here should be more rounded. So because it's just a live Boolean render, I can always go back in here, and because this one is just dynamic, it's just a super simple box. And you're going to see I have QGrid on. In this case, what I probably wanted to do, and what I kind of did do, is I had QGrid on. Let's turn that to, I guess, 4. And I need some more options. So I'm going to go over here to our geometry, dynamic subdivision, and I'm going to change this to a chamfer and see how it kind of rounds out those edges. And I'm also going to widen that. So we're going to change that coverage here to just widen that out. And let's turn on our smooth subdiv to like 2, maybe even 3. There we go. So we were able to, and this is all dynamic. If I go turn dynamic off, or I do shift, so D turns that on, Shift D turns it off, and you're going to see I've got this really nice cube in here, but all it really is just a plain old cube. And then if I turn that back on, it does a nice render, and if I turn my render back on, these are all live, so it just updates. So now this is much more accurate to this thing than it was previously. So that's the cool part of using dynamic subdivisions and live Boolean renders, is you can do stuff like that. Isn't better Dynamesh and do that polish features? Yeah, that's what I did. What inspires you to model in general? Craig asked. I always like the process of creating something, and even so when I got my associate's degree in Waco, Texas State Technical College in Waco, Texas, and this was in like 2000, 1999, 2000, 2001. It was like an associate's degree, so about 18 months. And I started 3D Studio Max, a little bit of modeling, and I was really terrible in it. And a lot of Photoshop, and just kind of learning, hey, computers and art programs on computers, that kind of thing. And then I went to Ringling College, Ringling School of Art and Design at the time, and we went through the whole production pipeline of pre-production, writing backstories to our characters, character concepts, environment concepts, concepting, all the pre-production stuff. And then we went into production, which was modeling, texturing, rigging, animation, exporting to video, and then post-production on your videos, all the things that you do in post-production, and lighting. Not the lighting's post-production, but, you know, kind of going through the steps. And by the time I finished modeling and texturing and started animating, I found myself being better at modeling and texturing, and I could do a lot more of that faster and have a better result quicker than when I tried to animate. I was not a very good animator. I put a lot of time and effort into animation, and the final result was kind of like, if I put a lot of time and effort into a model, I could walk away and go like, okay, I feel good about that. A month later, I'd look back and be like, oh, it's garbage. But I would at the time feel decent about it. But animation, I would put in blood, sweat, and tears, and then the final result would just be kind of like, oh, it's okay, I guess. But I just was not a good animator or a great animator. I was like passable. I passed. It was about as good as I can get there, though. So I just like the modeling and texturing creation process. AO question bakes, do your mesh, how do your mesh to bakes, like exploded bake, do you do an AO bake with all the pieces together, or would animation make it look weird? Yeah, if you're going to animate pieces, what we end up doing, if you go to the baking process, any of these baking processes on my channel that we go through and I bake in Painter, what you're going to notice is, let's just load up Painter real quick. I have a couple options checked on, And if you want to see that kind of broken down, I do every time I bake in Painter, I do this, but you can also go to okay, I guess there's a new version of Painter. I'm not going to download it and make you guys watch me install it, but so if we go through here, give me a second. So we're in Painter here, and if I go to File, Recent, Handgun, yeah, that's fine. So when we did this bake, and you want, it was always asking, so John's asking, you know, if you bake all this stuff together, like the trigger and this little battery pack right here, or anything that's going to move, if you bake in the AO on the top here, and then it wrote, like, you pop this thing open and you take it out, it's going to have AO, like a smudge, baked into the top of this. So how would you avoid that on animatable pieces? When we bring our high res and our low res in, they're all named separately. So when I go to the texture settings here and I go to bake textures, I can go here like under the normal map, and even with normals, I can go match by mesh name, and then for AO, match by only the same mesh name. So when I have battery pack high and battery pack low, it will bake those separately and then composite those textures in later all together, so it doesn't bake in all the it doesn't bake in all the detail around all these animatable pieces. So, and that was a feature that we did have in here as well in our older automated pipeline. You could tell it, like, hey, do you want me to explode these pieces for you? And that's the other thing too, is the manual exploding process, or like baking separate objects separately and then going into Photoshop and putting them all together using masks. That's just garbage work. Like, if you're stuck doing that, you need better tools. There's no reason for an artist to have to go through there and do that process manually. And this is something that Painter has built in that allows you to not have to do that, because that's really boring. That don't work. Hey, Derek, thanks for showing up. What is the best skill for practicing to improve ZBrush skills? Right now I'm doing a head model in an hour, no more, no less, every day. Opinions. That's a great start. And I would say for me, it was, and just for really anything, is just using it. So if you put in the time and you challenge yourself, for example, and you know, put in the time that you have. So if you have an hour a day, then do an hour a day. If you have 8 hours a day, that's going to be 8 times more that you're going to get every day. Of course, that's probably a little unrealistic for most people, but you can go through and do things that challenge the tools you're using, so you have to problem solve. So when you get good at doing heads, start doing something else, or adding props and stuff that's going to make you go, all these tools I know, it's taken me a long time and it's kind of difficult. So that'll get you exploring and Googling stuff and going to Pixelegger's channel, going to my channel if you want, and seeing if there's any solutions to your problems. So problem solving is a big part of kind of learning and stuff like that. Thanks everybody for showing up. Oh, okay, yeah, the Stingray shader for the Maya. Yep. That worked out pretty good. And I'm kind of embarrassed. I went into Maya and I was like, I googled like the PBR shader for Maya. So it was a Stingray shader. I'm like, oh, Stingray shader. Let's figure out how this works. Hit record, and I had no idea how it worked. I've fumbled my way through it. I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much as far as the functionality of that shader. I should have put an area or a directional light in there so I could at least show you the lighting working, but I did not. I was not really prepared to use that material. Why do you use KeyShot if you have Substance? Why do you use KeyShot if you have Substance Painter? Oh, well, it's a very different program for very different things. Like if I wanted to just like drag something in here and start applying materials and getting like translucency, or I wanted to render like a cup full of milk or a cup full of beer with bubbles in it, that would be incredibly difficult to do in Substance Painter, but incredibly easy to do in KeyShot. In fact, if you go to the Pavlovich workshop here, and I think as we did exactly that, and this one here is just going into ZBrush and creating a mug with some beer and some foam and some bubbles in it with nanomesh, and then just going into KeyShot and rendering this. Doing a render like this in Substance Painter would be impossible, as far as like, no, unless you got really fancy with iRay. But even then, it's not nearly as robust because it's not really set up to be. And you can't just like, I don't know. Now, that's not to say there isn't some great stuff in Painter that I wish I could do in KeyShot as well, but like I said, it's just two different solutions. And I would never limit myself to just one thing. Like, oh, I can do it, you know, why would I use Octane if I can do it all in Redshift? Or why would I use Arnold if I could do it all in V-Ray? Use it all. There's always going to be strengths and weaknesses, and I don't think anybody's ever been hampered by knowing too many solutions, as far as I can think. 3D printing services for high-res character models, I never used any. When I did Eat 3D, let me see. I did my cowboy for Eat 3D. Eat 3D got these printed out. Let's probably go to my ArtStation page. Yeah, I don't remember. I just googled Eat 3D cowboy. It goes to my ArtStation page. You can see here's the 3D print that Eat 3D got printed of this guy. I might have him in the other room. I can go grab him. There was a painted version and a bronzed version. I think the bronzed version, I think I have them both here. But these are really, really nice prints. But I honestly don't remember who did them. You can email Eat 3D. They could probably give you more information on that. I'm never crazy about how you always had to copy one material and paste it onto another instead of just making a new one entirely. Huh. On KeyShot or Painter? How's Jonas asks, how's stuff? I'm currently working on my stylized ZBrush set. How would you go about creating a tileable chainmail alpha map using the nanotile textures plugin? Yes, and chainmail is one of those things. The same thing with like honeycomb. Let me see if I can find this here. Pause. Let me click through here. I thought there was an Ask ZBrush on exactly chainmail. Honestly, if I'm being honest, here's where I would go for chainmail. I would start here. And I'd go, oh, chainmail. Downloaded, or I would go like here, chainmail, downloaded, because ain't nobody got time for this. But you can make your own chainmail. It's not terribly difficult. You just got to figure out like, okay, and I think we've done this on this channel before, where you just go side to side to side, and then you link them up, and then you make sure it's tileable. So then when you use NanoMesh, you can drag it out, and it all sticks together correctly. And it overlaps correctly. But yeah, doing an alpha would just be doing that and getting it tiling and then converting that to an alpha, which if you guys haven't done, go to the Z plugin, nanotile textures, which you may not have installed. If you don't, just Google Pixelogic plugins, go to the download center, scroll to the very bottom here, and you're going to see there is a nanotile textures. Install this, just download it, and put in your install plugins folder, and then you can bring it in here, and you'll use this. In fact, if you go back to my YouTube channel, of course, there is a entire playlist on nanotile here, so you can go through this, and let me turn the sound off. You can go through this, and we sculpted some seeds, and then we nanotiled them using the nanotile plugin just to kind of get a tiling texture of seeds. And then we applied that on a plane and tiled it so you could see, you know, obviously it's a fairly repeating pattern. Didn't do a great job, but you can just see the basic functionality of tiling in ZBrush. And in your case, it would just be tiling an alpha grab. Do you have a video on Noisemaker? Mainly interested in using for cloth or armor. I've dabbled in Noisemaker, and we could actually do a little bit of that. So for instance, you know what, we can, okay. So here's an interesting thing. And also, so you see how it's kind of like a little woven kind of look here? We can get that look in Painter, which we can do today, which Painter would be easier and also less destructive. I like to do any sort of, If I'm going to do noise that doesn't break the silhouette, for example, and I'm trying to get better at this as I go, but for example, like this text here, if I was in production, I would never put this text in ZBrush. I'm not even sure if I would put this little divot in here in ZBrush. Anything that doesn't break the silhouette that I would need to build in, I would do this alpha right here. I would just stamp that on the texture map because number one, it's more controllable in the final result, which we went over in Substance Painter. If I just kill all this here, and we go to, let me go to materials, and let me see if I got a really rough. Okay, so let me go ahead and take this one and we'll just UV this here. So if I wanted to, say, bake all this fabric detail in Noisemaker, which we could definitely do in ZBrush, and then I could take that, I could bake it to a normal map, I could bring it in here, and I could color it. But if I ever was like, you know what, I got it in game and I backed off and it's getting this moire effect, it's kind of sizzling on the screen, I need to make it bigger, I would have to go back into ZBrush, scale the Noisemaker up, apply it to my mesh again possibly, rebake my normal maps, bring it back in, hope I got clean bakes again, and then I could go through that process, as opposed to in here, all I would need to do is just tile this less. Same thing with any sort of detail here. If I go ahead and let's kill that, let's just put on just a fill layer. So we got a fill layer here, I'm gonna make it like darker, metallic, a little shiny, like this. So we've got our detail here, and if I wanted to stamp something on here, I could just do another fill layer. We can call this height. And in fact, dang it, let's go back to that denim one, because this will be something else I would do. So we've got denim in here, right? And we're gonna go to our UV scale, and let's say I wanted to put stitches on here. So I go into ZBrush, I get my stitch brush out, and I follow along on my model, and I mush it around, and I move things around, and I put stitches on here, and then I get into here, and I get into game, and I realize the stitches are too small. I have to do every single one of my stitches manually back in ZBrush. Instead, what I'd rather do is do something a little less destructive, which would call this one like a stitch layer, and then we can add a black mask here. And for this, let's put this in a group here. So we've got stitches, we'll call this stitches all. So we've got a stitch layer here, and I'm going to go to my brushes, and we're going to go to this stitches brush. Let's do stitches small. And you're going to see it's got an alpha, and it also has lines in it. So if we go over here, and we look at, I need to move this over a little bit, and we look at what type of stitch types we have, and also watch this alpha update. So if we have just a line stitch, we can go stripes opacity, we can dial that all the way down or all the way up if we want a lot of stripes in them. I'm going to dial that all the way down. You can change the spacing between them if you have multiple. So if you do like stitches of a count of like 2, now you got 2 stitches, you can scale them in the Y, kind of stretch them out a little bit, scale them in the X, you can make them thinner or thicker. You can change the spacing between them, so you can kind of pack them in a little bit closer. And now you've got 2 stitches. On this one, let's go over here to the height, and I'm going to say this one is, is it going to be replace? I want it to still have height here, but I want this one, let's go clear mask. No, let's go to, well, we'll keep that mask on here. It's not going to be replace, it's going to be normal. Let me see. Okay, so when I add height to this stitch layer here, I can go to this stitch layer, and right now I have base color, so I can go through here and I can make stitches that are, let's make them the same color brown, but we'll just make it a little bit lighter. And then we'll make it not metallic. Roughness, we can make it super shiny, or we can make it pretty matte. I'll go ahead and make it pretty matte. And then the height, we can just give it a little bit of height bump. So now I can go through here and I can add stitches like so. And if it's like, okay, these are too big, undo that, make it smaller, and I just drag that out. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but their height isn't enough, or it's too much. I can just go over here to the height, and I can go, okay, it's not enough, or here's a really height, and then here it is a little bit less height. So I can just modify that on the fly, and it's like, you know what, I don't like that color. Just go down here and change the color. Now this is all stuff you could do, doing it in ZBrush and, you know, going out and baking these little tiny stitches with a material ID and then bringing it in. But you couldn't change the height on the fly. It would be baked in, and you couldn't, and you could get a pretty clean material ID, but you're probably going to have a hard time getting it as clean as this. You know what I mean? Because it's just, you're putting an alpha stamp right on there. So probably a little bit tougher. And I can also go in here to say like orthographic view, and really quickly I can just go in through here, and I can go here. Let me just stamp this all the way through here, just holding down shift. So we can make a denim gun, and we can put these little stitches on here. I can go, and this is going to be, I don't know what, might have some weird UVs going on here, but if I go through here, I can put these on here, and if I decide, you know what, these are all double stitched like a pair of shoes, but now I want to go to single stitch, just go to your line options here, take your count back to 1, and now you got single stitch. Let's say these single stitches are bigger, you can just make that bigger. And in fact, if we take this one and we just duplicate this one off, and we go add a black mask, now this one's all reset, and now I can have entirely different properties for this stitch. So I can go through here, and I can be like, okay, there's my big stitches. In fact, I want to make these a different color. I want to make them orange and metallic and super shiny and super poppy. You can go through here and just do that. No problem. In fact, it kind of looks like it's sitting on the surface. If you want to embed these a little bit, we can take this stitch copy here. I'm going to move it down below, and we'll call this divot. And we're going to take this one. We're going to turn off everything, because all I'm really interested in is the height here. And we're going to change this divot to subtractive. Now it's going to at first cancel out. It's going to actually make it look like it's sinking in. But if we take this mask, which is just that mask right there, if I alt tap this one and we say add a filter, and we go down here to blur, A-B blur. So now what we can do is you can change that blur intensity, but now we have a little divot that's adding a negative height around this stitch. So now it looks like it's embedding a little bit around the stitch. Not a perfect solution, but it is something that you can do to kind of make it look like it's seated in there a little bit better. But anyway, you know, this is the kind of stuff where, yeah, you could do it in ZBrush. You could make a brush that had stitches in it, and you could do that, but it would be a lot of work. Same thing for text. If I just want to stamp text in here or a shape, I would just do another layer here. And if you just want to do height or normal, you can do normals as well, but I'm just going to do height. And we can go over here to our alphas and any of our shapes here. Grab this circle shape, and we can go add a black mask. And for this, let's go to brushes. And we're going to go to default hard, and we're just going to replace that alpha shape over here. I don't know why it keeps grabbing that material shape. We're going to go to our alphas, and we're going to grab this circle shape here. And in this circle shape, you have hardness, and you also have squeeze, so you can squeeze that alpha down, or you can pump it up. So now you can go through here, and you can stamp white where that'll be. Now you're going to see it didn't really do anything. However, I have a height layer here, so I can just take this height and I can just embed it here. And then if I wanted to put text in there, all I need to do is we can make another layer here. We'll call this text stamp. And again, we're just doing height, so I'm going to turn off everything but height. And we're going to go over here to, is text under alphas? Yeah. I think so. So over here, if I hover over these, you're going to see we have a bunch of different fonts. So we'll just take this substance font here, and we'll just put that into our brush. So I'm going to do add a black mask, and we'll just take the substance, So that alpha. So now we can stamp substance if we want to change that. We can change that. And now wherever I stamp this, and that's the other thing too I love about their, if you control left click, you can rotate. I wish Photoshop had this. And then control right click is to move this up and down. So I can just stamp this PavWork in there. Now again, I haven't changed any properties in here, so I can either stamp it out or I can punch it in. Super easy. And it's less destructive. I can go through here and I can turn it off and on. I can change the height values. I can even add a little bit of color in here. It's like, you know what, I changed my mind. I want that to be a little bit of a color, and in fact, I want it to be that color, but I don't want it to be that opaque. I can go to my base color here and I can just dial that down, and we can just do like maybe 30% opacity on that color stamp. And we can even go down here to this fill layer and say, you know what, change my mind. I want a color on this one, but I want it to be black. And I want to change this to a multiply layer, and I want to drop the opacity down so it kind of multiplies a little bit, like it's a little bit burnt in. Super easy. So that would be, in lieu of using Noisemaker, would be just doing it on the texture. Speaking of, let me go to my smart materials here. I'm looking for like a really heavy, Another thing you can do. Oh, you know what? I think they got it built in. Crap. I haven't looked into this yet. Oh, I should have. You can do, I think you can access Substance Share from within this program, but I don't know how to do it. I'm behind. I apologize to everybody, but you can go to Substance Share inside of Painter, and then you can go to materials and you can just download free materials that people have put up here. So if you do a search for fabric, you can go through here and just grab any of these that look cool to you. I think the one I'm looking for is like, let me do search all. Knitted sweater. So I take this one here. Yeah, this is the knitted sweater I was looking for. So if I wanted to do a knitted sweater, I would just do it in here, because it's a lot easier to change properties in here than it is to do it in ZBrush. How much time do you spend on renders, Eric asks? I'm currently rendering a model and going crazy. I've been staring at it too long, and it just looks worse and worse. I don't spend nearly as much time on renders as I should. That's usually the last thing I do. And if I really wanted to do a good job, I would spend more time on renders and polishing stuff. But not a lot of time. I need to get back more into like Octane and Redshift and do a little more keyshot work. I usually throw it in there and get it good enough and then render it. As far as, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully you know, put time in and it doesn't look worse. That's not great. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a great renderer. I need to do more rendering, so I wish I had better, answer for you there. Mordekainer says, demands red wax shader in Substance Painter. Oh, you know, there is some stuff in Substance Painter you can do for that as far as, let me see if I can just do it real quick. Let's kill all this. We'll go to red here, and it's like a red plasticky, and if we wanted to, let me go ahead and take it out of orthographic here. Let me see if I remember. So if we put in a channel here, we're going to say this is going to be a transmissive channel. And now that we got a transmissive channel, we have a we'll have a transmissive color we can turn on. We can give that maybe a red color. Then we need to tell it under viewer settings. We need to use the shader for transmission. It does have a cool velvet shader in here. It's kind of neat. And you know what? I probably don't even have it installed on this computer. It's another thing. Not a big deal though, because we can go here and go SSS. And we can go subsurface scattering material, download it. There we go. So let me Extract here. Oh man, I've gone through the installation of those before and I really don't remember. Let me see, materials, it's going to go into the shader. Let me see if I can just remember this. So much stuff in my brain. Actually, give me a second here. I can look it up. I got notes on this stuff. Drafts, we'll see. Painter, painter, painter. I have notes on that I need to go over it in my freaking video. You know what? Let's go to my YouTube channel. Give me a second, I'm sorry. Yes, and if we go here, SSS and transmission. So this is where I go over SSS and transmission. Do I go over what folder to put that in? Grab it. Ah, yes, I do. Thank you, Michael Pavlovich. You're a real hero. Okay, that's going to go into, let's see. C, users, me, documents, unless this has changed. Shelf shaders. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's in there anymore. Oh. Okay, I'll have to look that up. But you should just be able to, you know, I might even have it on here. Why would you log me out? Okay. So there is no Substance Painter in here. Let's see if it's under public. Nope. Oh, a logarithmic Substance Painter. Duh. Shelf shaders. Shelf shaders. GLSL shader files will be used as shaders. Fine. Let me copy this in here. And now let's restart. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We'll look at that in a second. Yes, and I'm going to install the new version of Painter here. Is it possible to copy an object along the spline with scaling, like from bigger to smaller? In Painter, no. In ZBrush, or in Painter, maybe if you were doing like intense, or you could do size based on pen pressure. Yes, so you could do that. In ZBrush, that would be under your, let me see, where are we at? Brushes here, and under, okay, it actually been under stroke, sorry. So you have a curve brush here, under stroke, you're going to go into these curve functions here, and you can turn on size, and you can go thick to thin, and then you could drag this out. So then you can go thick to thin. Eric says, Mike, sorry about the question. Do you know there's a difference between 3D modelers, sculptors, and concept artist salaries? Oh, I really don't. I'm not even sure exactly what I make, to be honest. Again, wish I had a better answer for you. So I worked my 3D printed assembled model. This is what I got so far. What are your techniques for cutting up the model like so? Let me see if this will even load up. I mean, for slicing up, I've done a very few 3D printed stuff. I know Joseph Dress has done a lot. I think he's probably the better resource. And as far as like cutting stuff up, I would use live Boolean to get that figured out first. So it would be like, and you could do your key registrations in here. So just a really quick example would be tool. Really, ZBrush, come on. Edit. Let's go to delete other. And let's go to layers. And let's go to bake all. So we got our guy here. And I'm going to go, I want to put a slice through here. So we could do, we could slice that with a plane. If you want to do, let's do a really quick one where we just do, let me see, geometry. And in fact, we don't even have, we can just do dynamic subdivisions here. So that way we can just insert this. We'll go split mass points, and we'll do Shift-D, and we'll scale this in here. I'll rotate this around. So you'll be able to, let's turn everything back on here. Like slice through the arm here, for example. And if you wanted to do, like, say, let me think. So we got this piece here. I'm also going to go through here, and we're going to put another cube on here. And let's go into transparent ghost. And again, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants since I've never actually done this, as far as I can remember. But we can put a little cube right here. And we can just stick this in here. So now we have a slice plane and a cube plane. And so what we'll need to do is we'll go ahead and split that down. So we've got this cube here, and this cube I want to be additive or subtractive. I want one cube to be additive to the arm and the other cube to be subtractive. So I suppose what you could do, I wonder if you could do it in all one step. Because this thing needs to subtract out, and then this thing needs to be subtractive to the arm but additive to the plane. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to use this cube here to be subtractive for this start group, which is the human male, and then we're going to duplicate this cube off and make a new start group, and we're going to say this cube is going to be additive to that, and up here we're going to duplicate off this here, and we're going to stick this into that start group, and we're going to say this is subtractive. So if we turn off that start group and we go into Alt-R, we're going to have it cut in, and if you look inside there you can see the cube is also cutting that out. And then if we go down here and we turn on this start group, we're getting a polyplane, which we don't actually need this polyplane. We need the additive start group to go to the lower part of the arm. So, or the upper part of the arm, doesn't really matter. So in that case, let's just do this one step at a time. Let's see if I can work my way through this problem. Something I've never really done before. So if I go over here and we say, okay, I want dynamic. So when I go here to the Boolean here, we're going to turn on dynamic subdivisions, make Boolean mesh. This will make our union mesh here. And now I've got my union mesh. I can do Control Shift, grab this piece, go ahead and split this off. And you're going to see I have key registration on here and then also on here, but one of these needs to poke in. So what I can do is I can quickly just go here. I can grab that cube. I can go to append that cube. And then this, let's say I want the cube to go with this arm or the other side. So if I take this one and merge it down, now this one's going to stick out and that one's going to poke in. So now if I take this arm and move it thusly, you're going to see that fits perfectly right in there. Could be one way to do it. There's probably a more elegant way than what I just tried to do, but again, I'm just flying off the seat of my pants. But that would be how I would do it. You could also probably just use a polyplane. Now, there are going to be tolerances there that you're going to have to worry about. Like if you do it perfectly and you have a NASA resolution 3D printer, maybe that would work, but and really it's not even like, oh, when I'm moving it, it's not moving perfectly along that normal. So let's hit Alt. There we go. I'm like, it's not even moving right. Now it'll slide perfectly in and out maybe, or it should. That subtractive mesh here, but you probably are better off making that cube a little bit smaller when you attach it to the arm, maybe. What is up with my mic? I literally put on a gain and everybody's telling me that the mic's too low. Yeah, turn up your volume because I've done so much to try and get my, here, let me see. Whoa, that looks weird. I'm going to go to my mic auxiliary settings, filters. I have a gain on it. I'm going up like 9.5 decibels. I can turn it up more, but now I'm afraid. And if you look at this here, whoa, you know, as I'm talking, it's going into the red, so I don't want to like blow speakers out on the audio. So I hope it's fine. Cool, cool. Do you ever use photo projection anymore for texturing? Is it all just procedural? Do you see photo projection fading away in the industry? No, in fact, if we load up, let's see, streaming, prehistoric creatures, giant anteater, fiber mesh. So one recent example of me using textures is stuff like this. If we're going to solo mode, you're going to see I took my little anteater here. And let's go to matte cap here. So I've got my giant anteater, and I just took a photo and I just brushed it on here, and then I was able to do my fiber mesh through that. And here's another thing too. So when we go to BPR render, this will be a best preview render. This one's going to take a little bit to do. I can just go ahead and hit that, and we'll go look at the render examples. But this is a fun one. You can, if you go to the previous video on this one on my YouTube channel, you can see the making of this thing. So, Blue Rain, you were too kind. Is it possible to bake all the info on the color texture? No. As far as like PBR, ooh, did I do something weird? Did I, oh, do I have, that's not quite the result I was looking for. Let me see what I have going on. Oh, you know what? Let's change it to Skin Shader 4 maybe. Trying to see why we're having weird issues here. Top left icon, let's check it out. Oh, you know what? Did Painter even install? Yeah, let's launch it up. I don't know what's going on with that render. It's got like transparency. I wonder if I have something on in my settings here. Let's go to our render. Let's turn off ambient occlusion. It's rendering quick. That's really bizarre. Oh, I have live Boolean turned on. Okay. Turn that off. Back in Substance Painter. Substance Share website. That goes to the website. So that is correct. Let me see. File, recent. I shouldn't, you know what? It's my channel. I'll do what I want. I was going to say I shouldn't like be learning this stuff as I'm live streaming, but you know what? Who said who? Not me. So let's see. What is this thing? Click it. Substance source for Painter. Is that it? Okay. Okay. So click this little fancy icon right here. So this one will take you to the Substance Share website, which is where we were. This one is Substance Source, which I haven't used. Let's go to the free assets area. There's some cool free assets in here. So this one, if you have a subscription, I think you probably will have access to all this stuff. So the free ones are labeled here, all categories, free assets. So lots of cool stuff you can pull in from here. So that's what it is, Substance Source. Okay, I knew there was something. I just wasn't positive of what it was. But in order to get that alpha out of, ooh, I wonder if I can do that. Give me a second. I'm going to do, oh, we were going to check out the, I'm sorry, I'm scattered. I'm all over the place today. Ooh, how are we doing on time? Okay, I need to leave in like 20 minutes. Let me go to materials. No, let me go to just a fill material. We're just going to keep it simple. And we're going to go over here to red. Do like a red plastic. In fact, let's do maybe a light orange plastic so we can do kind of a red SSS. And if I did this correctly, we can change this from PBR metal rough to PBR SSS with alpha blending. We can just do SSS. We're not doing any alpha blending. So we've changed our material. So now on this fill layer, we can go to texture settings and we have emissive, but we don't have transmissive. So we can turn on transmissive. I can turn on transmissive for this material we just made. The transmissive color I can make red, and it doesn't do anything because we need to go back to our viewer settings. I think, and under shader parameters, we need to say the subdermal color. Okay, so the subdermal color is where we put that in. So if I pass a shadow around, you're going to see we're getting, you can just dial in just like a little bit of like an SSS or a waxy kind of look here. You can also say use the transmissive map. Let's see if that does a whole lot here. A little bit. So basically what that's doing is let's transform. Oh, it's, you know what? It's not. Okay, I'm stupid. What I would use possibly is under my textures here. It's not transmissive, it's my thickness. So there's my thickness map I would have baked out. So what I could do is I could drop this thickness map into my transmissive map, and then now my transmissive map, or my thickness map, is controlling where my transmissive is going to show up. So if I crank this up a little bit, you can start seeing that's where the thickness map determined where thick and thin parts of my mesh are. So if you have like thin nostril wings or ears or thinner parts of your mesh, it will probably dial in a little bit where that transmissive goes. If you want to tweak this, what you could do is you could make a paint layer and paint just transmissive and paint where you want the red to go. You can add a filter here or add a levels, and on the levels you just want it to affect the transmissive, and then you can like tighten up the transmissive here, or that's actually clamping. Let's go ahead and there we go. We can make the transmissive a little more contrasty in here. So now we kind of get that kind of look. Or if you don't want that, if you don't want the transmissive map to affect it at all, you can just turn that off, and now it's just kind of a general shader controlled. So we're going to go back to our fill layer here, make that kind of a red. Now you just need to dial in your material parameters to work well with the SSS, and that will kind of give you maybe kind of a red waxy look. Best I can do. Yes, you can make your own smart materials. I do it all the time. In fact, in here, I wonder if I have one where I can just texture this thing up. Or in fact, what you could do, File, Recent, let's go to Handgun here. And if you just wait for this to load up. And we take the ZBrush handgun and I go to create smart material. So it created a smart material for me. I can apply this to anything. I can bring in one of my robots and use all these materials. I'd have to kind of reassign where they go. But if I go through here and I delete all that, it's like, okay, I'm starting off fresh. Oh, I've got a smart material here. I'm just going to drag that in. And boom, instant texturing. Thanks for the kind words, Jakob. Thanks for showing up. Up left corner, thank you. We found it. Again, sorry for learning the stuff on the fly, but hey, it happens. So make your silhouette smooth and go to substance for detail instead of doing it in ZBrush, even for video film work. Now, I can't say for film, I've never worked in film, but if it doesn't deform the surface, you can use a displacement. So you can convert your height to a displacement map, and then that'll do a lot of detail for you, and it'll look like it's modeled in. And it's less destructive, and again, you can change the height on the fly and your texture as opposed to having to go back and rebake everything. So yes, if it's just in the silhouette, go ahead and model it in. And if you want to get fancy in film with displacement maps, you don't even have to do that. For games, we can't get that fancy. It's a little too computationally expensive, but you can certainly get away with a lot just with normal maps, or maybe a light displacement in that sense. Can you texture this gun as cell shaded? Let's say like Fortnite. Yeah, there is. If you go to my YouTube channel, it's been a while. I think I did. Did I? You know what? I think it's under the Substance Painter quick start here. We get into the baked lighting filter. I haven't done Stylized in Painter in literally years. But let's go to our smart mask here and see. There's definitely ways to do it. I've seen it done really, really well. I just haven't personally done it. So let me add that to my list. I'll get back to you on that one. That's something I don't want to learn on the fly. That might be a little bit tough to sit through. So let me go here to my streaming topics. I'll see if I can't learn that real quick, or at least the basics. Or at least it's not really learning it. It's like, what techniques would you use in Substance to give you a really nice effect? And we can try some stuff really quick off the top of my head. Stylized Texture Painter. So off the top of my head, we could do, let's kill all this stuff. We're going to go into here, and we'll make this like a blue. And let's go to our smart masks. Is there anything cool in here that's like, you can like blur your edges. And the baked lighting filter is kind of cool. And if you wanted to do more, you could just make everything rough and make everything look like it's made out of clay with it. And if you want really heavy AO, you could add your AO map as a base color. So you can go over here to your textures. So sometimes this clay stuff will have like a really heavy ambient occlusion baked in, and we can just make this like a multiply. So you can kind of bake that into your render here. And you can also bake in lighting if you wanted to. You can do, if we duplicate this material off here, we can add a black mask, and we could say, just really quickly, we can add a generator. We can just do a find edges, really. We can do metal edge wear. And if I take this one and we just make this a little less saturated and a little lighter, and we say, let's go back to this generator here, and let's say if we take this grunge amount down to 0, that'll kind of give you a highlight, every edge kind of cartoony look. Cell shaded, I wonder if we took this, made it black, and really this generator is probably not the best. I'm going to see, is there a, I can just do a find edges using just a mask here. Soft damage, fabric edge, edges uber, edges subtle, edges strong. Let's do edges strong. Take that texture down. And probably if you're doing toon shaded, you're going to want to play with the shadow opacity here. So if we go to the display setting, viewer settings, and we go up here to shadow opacity, we can drop that down, and maybe even play with the sharpness. And you could do different types. You could do, and you know, this here could also be multiply, and then you could drop the opacity down on your base color, so you can dial in this, and you can also dial in the line thickness in the mask editor. It's like the key shot, you know, toon shader. So you can do global balance here. You can blur it out a bit, maybe to soften it up. You could do more contrasty lines or less. And then AO, not gonna do too much. Rules-based normal thickness. Let's kill that texture. We don't need it. I don't know. I would have to look that up. I'm sure somebody out there has figured out how to do cool toon stuff. Gotcha. Yeah. What are the tips on splitting the character to be assembled after 3D printing it? That I don't know. I've never done it, but a lot of glue, maybe some sandpaper. I mean, I did do, you know, now that I think about it, I did do kind of a 3D print. I had Louise Cruel print out a, is that on here? Oh, there it is, ZBrush Stylized Modeling. So I did go through, and let me get out of this view. Stop. There you go. Key shot rendering. Oh, so we just did the rendering on here. If you go to my ArtStation, I think I have something on that. Now that you mention it, not edit profile, my profile. And we go to Stylized. I did have these things 3D printed out, and I did have to do a lot of cleanup work. You know what? I don't have that. Let me send you guys a link. Yes. Okay. Okay, I do have a link for you. Albums. Goodness gracious. Yay. Okay. So I do have a album of what I went through here. So let me just link that to you guys. And that's kind of the cleanup process here. Cake toppers and all the stuff I used, sanding it down and glue and putty. I don't have any real key registration stuff for cleanup, but I did learn a lot, and I also learned cleanup is kind of a real hassle, so I would crank up the fidelity on your 3D printer so you don't have to do so much cleanup. Can you actually copy an object along that spline, not just a stroke? Yeah, all that is oh, okay, there's the render. All that is just you take a sphere here, for example, and you go to make polymesh 3D. Actually, that'll be a little bit intense. Let's take this one, brush, create insert mesh new, and now we have an insert mesh brush, and then we're going to go over here to our brushes, and we're going to go to our stroke, sorry, and we're going to go over here to curve mode, and now we have a curve brush here, and you can change the size and all that stuff on the fly. In fact, you can even change it to something completely different, like a bike chain, and then you can go over here, and then it's just a matter of turning on size and going thick to thin, and now it's duplicating objects over time, thick to thin. Or if you want to go back to the brush we made, you can do it with stars, and then just make sure you turn back on size. There you go. Now intensity and size, I wonder if you turn intensity and size on, it does go thick to thin. Let's see if we can't crank that up a little bit more obviously. So if we go to brush modifiers, let's go to the strength multiplier and put in like 3 and tap that to update it. Okay, yeah, so it does not only size but intensity. So now to go thick to thin on your Z intensity, you can crank that Z intensity down, and that'll update that on the fly, but we have the multiplier on there, so it'll fatten them up a little bit better. After you remesh something after blockout, do you then never put it in Dynamesh again and just work from subdiv? Yes. That's the whole point of remeshing after Dynamesh, is so that you Dynamesh until you get everything figured out, and then once everything's set, then Z-remesh it, and then just do your final sculpt. Now, of course, if you go back into Dynamesh, then, I mean, there is ways you can add extra pieces to a remeshed model, but at that point it might even be easier just to, if you was like, oh, I really need to make a huge change, Dynamesh it again, and then just Z-remesh it again, and then project your details back. Is it worth to create show reels for 3D modeling and texture artists to land a job in the industry? Is portfolio enough? You can have video turnarounds and stuff in your portfolio, and on ArtStation is where I go for everything. So make an ArtStation account, post all your stuff. Just because it's set up, I don't really care too much about personal websites and having to go like, oh, what cute way did they set up their website? And I know everybody always says, if you're setting up your website, don't make it cute, make it navigatable and clear and blah, blah, blah. And I don't care if you can make a website in 2017. I really, truly don't. For me, it's like, I'm just going to go to your ArtStation page and look at your stuff. But that's just me. That's not everybody. And whatever you have in your art station, if it's relevant, yeah, like a show reel, I'm probably not going to sit there and watch a video. I want to go through and look at your stuff and click on stuff that interests me. And then if you have like a Sketchfab or a Marmoset viewer version of it, I can look at, or a video from YouTube, I can just hit play. But I'm probably not going to sit through like a 7-minute show reel, if I'm being honest. Notice with the UVs and texture map, when I separate the head from a full body scan, that's a tougher one. You'd have to, I'm not sure on that one. You'd probably, the easiest way would be to convert all your texture stuff to, and ZBrush would convert all that stuff to your vertex color and then rebake that off. So when you split the head off, it's just a poly paint that you bake off to new UVs. How do you have time to work out, record, do personal work, and have muscle? I don't have muscles. But it's you know, if you are sitting on your butt all day, your body will deteriorate quite rapidly. Believe me, I know. So you just have to kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna jog during lunch, and it's gonna suck, but because I hate cardio with a passion. But it keeps me semi-healthy. When is it appropriate to use multiple maps? What are the benefits? Multiple maps and as far as draw calls, like multiple maps, you would use multiple maps or multiple materials on an object depending on the material type. That's a really involved question in production of games in particular. Multiple maps as far as just texturing in Substance Painter, as far as like color, base color, roughness, metallic, AO and stuff. That's just to make the PBR shader look correct in Engine or in here. So that's a tough question. There's a lot of answers to that question. Multiple objects on a single model. The benefit of that is just, there's a lot of benefits, but fidelity, and there's a lot of drawbacks too. If you wanted to render in real time, sometimes you can't have 300 draw calls on a single object, so you have to compartmentalize those, or if you're doing an environment, you have to worry about streaming, so you'd have to, or atlasing of textures, so you can get more bang for your buck. It gets like putting together the world's craziest puzzle when you're doing real-time solutions for games and stuff. So yes, we can do ZBrush to keyshot. Yeah, so okay, I kind of got sidetracked here. So let's say, okay, I got a few minutes left. Really quickly, let's go back to our bullet box here, and we'll do Alt-R, which is my hotkey for live Boolean, and we'll go down here to our Make Boolean Mesh Dynamic Subdivisions, and we will just go ahead and make that. Yeah, the stylized stuff in Blizzard for the painter stuff, I'm not really good at all. I don't think I've ever done it, at least not seriously. I mean, there might have been a point where I was like, oh, let's try this, but I never really, I've never worked on a game like that, so I would be out of my element, unfortunately. But for example, if we take this bullet guy here, so this one we had 3 start groups here. So we have the union box, or we have the box here, and we have the arms, and we have this guy here. So if we go through here and we just want to do like a quick ZBrush render, we can go to like Chrome for this bullet here. And if you want to make it a different color chrome or whatever, you can. I'm going to keep it white, and we're going to go to mRGB, and we're going to go to color, fill object. And for this box over here, we can do something similar, but I'm going to isolate just this box here. So this skull here has its own polygroup. I'm going to invert that, and we're going to fill this one. Let's see, color, fill object. Let's turn off polyframe here. And then I'm going to invert that selection, and on this here, I'm going to go to my basic material with white, color, fill object, and now we have white matte material, and then we have this chrome. If I want to change any of these settings, I can just drag out here. Oh, we need to also, you know what, we'll just use, if you drag out here and you land on it, it'll go ahead and update, or it'll grab that material. So you can just drag from here and just select that one, and then Alt tap the arm, and we'll go to color, fill object on that one. And then under the basic material, we can go here to the material settings, and we can say, okay, we were playing with your specular here. I'm going to knock that specular back, make it a little rougher, and also take the specular curve and roughen this out just a bit. We did change it to a blend. You can change it back to a Phong if you want to. I'm going to keep it on blend. And then if we want to change the, oh, you know what? On the bullet here, let's go ahead and take this part here, and we'll go to color, fill object with mRGB. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So now we've got this thing going. Let's turn on perspective here. And if we're just doing renders in ZBrush, I think we're pretty close to being done. You can do, oh man, okay, this was in my, so if you go to intro to ZBrush, oh, you know what, it might not be free. If you go to my intro to ZBrush part 3 videos, let me see what's on there. I don't think I, got saving camera views on here. So I go through an entire section on just BPR rendering in ZBrush. So this one, you're going to have to go to my Gumroad or my QBrush, unfortunately. I don't have those for free. But I can go over the basics of it sometime. I think I'm running out of time right now. But if you go to Intro to ZBrush Part 3, let's say on my Gumroad channel. Let me see here. And you scroll down to Intro to ZBrush Part 3. Make sure I'm not lying to you. Photoshop compositing, light reflection and lens blur, spotlight texturing. I go through and do a bunch of stuff on that. So, I mean, I guess I can show you guys. Let me see if I have those available to me real quick. Recording, ZBrush intro, part 3 exported. Yeah, sneak peek. Sneak behind the scenes peek. So basically, you save your camera views. We go through a little bit of keyshot. Some of this is a little bit dated, but we go through the different render passes. So basically, let me turn this down. So this is basically what we do. We go through here and we texture this thing up and we fill this and we talk a lot about materials and stuff, and then we save our render passes out and then we go into Photoshop. Now you can use this plugin here once you hit BPR render. So we've got our nice little cool render here. You can go over here to Z plugin, and there is a Photoshop, ZBrush to Photoshop CC. So you can just export all this stuff to Photoshop and it'll do it all for you, or you can do it manually, which is the process I go through here. And then we go through Photoshop compositing, which is, you know, taking all these layers in, doing all sorts of adjustments, doing your lens blur and stuff, and then going back into ZBrush, and you can do a clown render, you can do a lighting pass render, and then just do all your manipulation here. And then light reflections and lens blur. Yeah, so we got this thing here. And then we could do our light passes and reflection passes, and then by the end, and also lens blur, and then you can get a render like this out of ZBrush. And it's pretty fun, and ZBrush is very forgiving. Let me see what else I got. Anything interesting on here? Also I have this bonus armor marketing. This is kind of the same thing where you go through, and I did this in Keyshot, but you could do the exact same thing in the ZBrush, where you go through here and you put all these things in Photoshop and you layer it up, and you just do, you know, scratch up his armor and adjust everything. And all this painted decal stuff was done in Photoshop on a separate layer from another render with a little emboss on it. So lots of different ways you can use Keyshot or ZBrush to render your stuff out and composite it all together. Anyway, so there's that. Let's see if this just works. Let me see if I have this set up correctly. Oh, you know what? I need to tell it. There is a little setup here. So if I go escape out of here, there is instructions on, like, hey, to get this to work, you have to do some stuff to get it to show up in Photoshop, which I haven't done. Sorry about that. Andrew says, I hate Arnold for not having multiple texture layers. I like my objects to be higher quality without having to make some max as big as 8K sometimes. That's weird. They should have. I'll have to look into Arnold. I'll put that on my list of things. I gotta go. Unreal Engine projects. I don't have anything on this computer, unfortunately. I have Unreal Engine sitting back here. We'll get more, you know what? We'll get more into Unreal Engine as time goes on. I will go through and we'll put some weapons in here because this is really fun stuff. I do it at work a lot, but I obviously don't do it at home ever. So I need to get better at that. So that'll be something we can do in the future here. Oh, and one really quick thing we were going over. Let me put the ZBrush back into place here. This is what we were talking about. So if we wanted to, let's go ahead and I'm going to take basic material and we'll go to Z plugin and we're going to go to Subtool Master and we're going to go to Fill and we're going to say Color and Material, and I'm just going to fill this all with the same material here. So if you wanted to, now you can go through and say, okay, I'm going to color this dark gray, and I'm just going to do a RGB fill, and we'll just fill this in, and you can go in here, crank this up, just do RGB with your standard brush, and you can just go through here, turn off your lazy mouse, go to Preferences, Edit, turn off Align Cursor to Surface here. You can go through here and you can just kind of paint really softly, or you can hold down Control Shift and then you can fill this area here. So you can kind of just go through and do painting. You can hold down Shift and turn off Z Add and you can smooth out your poly paint here. So if you do like you can do like a little painted highlight on here, and then you can hold down Shift and blur it out. Let's hold down Shift and let's go to Smooth Stronger and then turn off Z Add. The reason I'm turning off Z Add is because I only want to smooth out my poly paint, not my material. And let's also go to a black or a darker gray, and we'll isolate this piece here and we'll fill that. So you can just go through here and you can just paint this stuff. Same thing with his arms. We'll go to, let's saturate it a little bit. Let's go to like a slightly desaturated baby blue here. Ooh, maybe a little bit lighter than that. There we go. And then we can go to a white or a very, very light blue, and you can go through here, and you can also drop the RGB intensity down on your poly paint here, and you can just go through, hold down Shift like so, and now we've got a little bullet guy. And for him, let's go ahead and just turn off the box. We can just take this guy into Keyshot. So we're going to go to Render, External Render, Keyshot, and we'll go ahead and just hit, I guess we can do auto. I mean, I always turn off auto merge. I don't know why. It's a nice thing to have on. And we'll just send it over the Keyshot real quick. There we go. I need to resize this thing. Give me a second here. Camtasia Recorder. Whoops. Eesh. I've got a really big monitor, and sometimes my programs, if I haven't opened them in a while, they'll forget where I positioned them. So I gotta do this every once in a while. There we go. Okay, so we got our guy in here, and this is just the poly paint. So if we go through here and we hold down Shift and Control, left click, let's go ahead and put him in an environment. So we'll go to our environment here, sun and sky. Let's put him in a sun and sky. There we go. And for our environment, let's turn off our ground shadows. So it looks like he's kind of floating here. And we can go into the HDRI editor. Oh man, let me see. Let me go back to environment here. We got sun and sky. Let's change the time. So we can drop this time down or go high noon. And if we want to, we can also go to the environment here and we can say color. It's the ground color. Let's crank that ground color brightness up just a bit here. Oh, that's the horizon ground color. I want actually, sun and sky here, time of day. Let's go to a outdoor environment here. And then Control right click, Now he's in this environment, not very convincingly in this environment, but this material is just kind of a basic material that's kind of rough, so it kind of stands out. But if you were to go and use a more physically accurate material, like a, is this an older one? Huh, I thought the anodized metals had all been dialed in. Let's go to plastic. There you go. A little more realistic. So now, looks like he's in that environment. We can go over here to environment. We can turn on. I am losing my mind. Even the sun and sky looks a little bit better. And you could do, and oh, cool, you get the reflections off his hand. You can do, let's see, settings. That's what I'm looking for. So we go to here, we go to sun and sky, and then settings. We can turn to color backplate. So we can have our sun and sky rendering here. We turn on ground shadows here, and occlusion ground shadows if you want. Ground reflections if you want to. But we'll go back to our image settings, and let's go ahead and move this guy up. So we go to scene here, and they go to my models, and we want to move this thing. Yoink. There we go. And then under environment settings, we can go to a color. We can just drop that color down. Okay. Something like that. Clown map out of a polypaint without that row of blended pixels due to the faces not being colored. I think it's just a resolution issue. When I bake out of ZBrush, I don't really have too much of a problem. Like on this thing here, if I turn everything back on, this is all just color filled. And really, okay, here's the other thing too. I try to have every piece that needs to be color filled as a separate object, just so I can do a nice clean color fill, as opposed to like having to split an object and yeah, having that kind of blending resolution issue. Getting materials for ZBrush, it used to be on, or one of them, whoops, select your download center here. Do they not have ZBrush plugins, matte caps? They have matte caps. So here's a matte cap library you can go through. And if you want to see like what these look like, I think you just click on them and you can just go through and see what all these matte caps look like. And you can do a search for that. So that's one place to get matte caps. Also, if you go to my YouTube channel, I went over ZBrushGuides.com stylized rendering. So this is another resource for you guys. You can go through here, and this is another really fun one. So we go through and we go through ZBrushGuides.com tutorial step by step, and we just recorded all the process. And then in ZBrush, if you wanted to do like a toon render, let me see. Goodness gracious. Okay, stroke, go away. Brush, curve, whatever. Now, get rid of you. Delete hidden. That's fine. Crap. Hold on just a second. Let me load this thing back up. For instance, string pistol. And I think I have those loaded up too. So I've got this thing here, and if I want to render this like for a comic book, let's see what we got in here. Go into materials here, stylized rendering. We can grab the super comic shader, and now it's like a little ink render, and you can hit BPR, and you can get shadow information along with AO if you want to, or you can just do like an ink render like this. And you can also control this ink render if we go to the material properties, and I'm not going to go heavy into this because I have to go, but we can turn on let's see if we have this shader here. Is it S Super Comic? Oh, these are all on. So S3 is another part of that shader. So now you get a little bit heavier look here while you're rendering. And you could do this with anything. So if I load up even something that's super streaming, super, no, let's grab Smirky. Or even something stylized, we'll do this one. No, something that's just kind of blocked out. Like here's a little policeman, hard surface guy, or giant anteater looks kind of weird. But like this thing here, if we hold down shift and turn this off, now we're getting like a very pen and ink render on our guy here. It's kind of neat. And there's all sorts of really cool way. Here's a little bit more of a Batman render here. And yeah, so we go over all this kind of look. And you could also do toon shading in Keyshot. Oops, I hit render and it sent it over here, which is fine. So you can take the comic style render in here, but you can also go to toon shader, drop it on here, and now you've got a toon shader here. And if you double click this, you can go to the materials, and there's all sorts of cool stuff you can do with these things here. Let me see. Oh, you know what? We want to drop this on everything. There we go. So now in here we can do contour width, contour angle to get a little less or a little bit more detail built in, shadow strength. You could also dial in transparency if you wanted to do transparency on just a single piece, or here's a transparency. You can kind of see what's going on inside the weapon here, which is kind of neat. So all sorts of cool stuff. John says, thanks for all the streams. Been following ZBrush 3. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Glad the videos are helping, and hope to have more videos. And we get more interesting stuff going with like Unreal and stuff that might be interesting. Even if you're not a gamer person, it's kind of cool to get your stuff in and use them in a gamey type way. Cool. What's the minimum pack of software knowledge in the industry now? Everybody must know Substance Painter, Maya, Max, ZBrush, or does that really not matter? And each review is unique. You need to at least have a working knowledge of some 3D package so you can get it through the pipeline in video games anyways. And every project I've ever been on has been a Maya backbone pipeline for animation purposes. So some knowledge of Maya just to kind of get object import, scene organization, export. But you can, in our studio, Certain Affinity, we don't care what you model in. In fact, I model in almost everything, and some people model in I model in ZBrush mostly, but I don't mind Fusion 360, I don't mind Modo, I don't mind Maya. Whatever tool I'm using that has good stuff, I can just get in there and really quickly get it done. That's fine, but you do end up usually having to go through Maya to get the final export in a game, just because our animation pipelines are Maya based. And that's not just a Certain Affinity thing, that's been on third-party development too. Every project I've been on has been Maya backbone that I remember. Cool. Alrighty. I think that's all I was able to go over today. I need to kind of head out, but hopefully that was fun, and I will catch you guys next week. Let me pop open OBS here again. I lost it. And so this Tuesday, I think I will be on my Pixelogic stream. So just one more real quick one. If you go to my stream, so here's the video on demand. You can go to ZBrushLive.com or go to this channel here. There's my video on demand stuff. And then here's my YouTube channel here. And so see you guys Tuesday, I think. And then Thursday. Oh, you know what? I am going to be gone. Okay, so I'm not going to be streaming on Tuesday. I will be here next Thursday. See you guys next Thursday. Same bat place, same bat time. Thanks, everybody. So for the Fusion to 360 workflow stuff, I wasn't able to hit that today, but I do have that on my channel. If you go to my playlist here and you go to the Fusion 360 Quick Start, right here, and you go to video, it's towards the bottom. Ooh, working with multiple components, working with imported objects. Go to the very end here. I mean, I do talk about taking ZBrush models in as bodies sculpt bodies, but way towards the end here I talk about like taking this kind of dynameshed garbage mesh that I've just basically did a quick block out on. This is what's more interesting. So 11 minutes into this video, you'll see me taking an object into Fusion and using it just as a reference guide for something that's a final model that I could go ahead and recreate in Fusion and then import that back into ZBrush. Because of course you can hop back and forth between ZBrush and KeyShot pretty easily. So this is me concepting out a piece of a Fusion piece that I brought in, and I'm like, you know what, I just want to do some quick stuff in ZBrush and then take that information into KeyShot here and then just recreate it in KeyShot. So it's all there. Interesting. I didn't know I put end plates on here on this video. Anyway, cool. Alrighty. Thanks everybody. I'm gonna head out and have a good day.